Hey there, thanks for joining me. I'm Beth from Autism Advocating. I am a coach for parents of children that are newly or recently diagnosed with autism, and today we're talking about speech therapy, what I thought versus the reality. When we received our diagnosis, it was so overwhelming, all the different therapies, the doctor's visits, and all of that. So I wanted to check in with you and hear what you thought about speech therapy. Have you started speech therapy for your kiddos? And I'd love to hear from you. So let's get started. So speech therapy, what I thought that we were gonna walk into a room, probably not much in the room, a table, a chair on each side, therapist on one side, my son on the other, and a lot of repetition, where she would hold up like a flashcard and be like, what do you see? And teaching him how to say the words. That's not it. It's not even close. So the reality of speech therapy, let's talk about it. The reality is we went in for our assessment and they just interacted with my son. They interacted to see what he would say, find out what he liked, what he doesn't like. A lot of questions about us. Of course, there was probably an assessment or questionnaire along with all the other paperwork I filled out. It's kind of, I don't know about you, but it gets a little blurry after a while. You fill out so many of those forms. But after the first sit down and they really just spent the time getting to know each other, the speech therapist or the speech language pathologist, and yes, there is a difference, and yes, you'll learn about it. I'm not going to overwhelm you today, but they did a lot of play-based therapy. So there's typically a structure to it with some games or toys that the therapist wanted my son to play with. And then they'd give him, once he completed the things that they wanted him to run through, they'd give him the freedom to ask for other things. So they would invite him to speak as well and to develop those speech skills. And then they would teach him. We use this phrase all the time, and you may hear it. You can say, and we use it all the time. We say, hey, bud, you can say, I want my trains. That was one of our first things that we learned to try with our little guy at home. The other thing I want to share with you, other than just the play-based therapy and working with toys and games, and I want to add here, my son first started learning about turn taking in speech therapy. So it's more than just speech therapy, what they end up teaching. But one of the other things that we found really helpful that I want to share with you today are something called Pecs. So their picture, it's a picture, I think it stands for like picture education system or some communication system. I'm not 100% sure. I probably should have looked that up. I will note it here below. But we work with Pecs, and these are what Pecs are. They're just like little images of the word or phrase that you're trying to work with for your child. So this is an example of one of the ways that you can use Pecs. You can use them, I mean, we've used them a ton of different ways. One of the first things we used them with was yes or no. We had a Pecs that said yes and one that said no. And we would say, which one, yes or no? And then we moved on to first then, so he could see like his schedule. First, we have to pick up our toys. Then we get to do that. We still use that one. We've used that one the longest, but we don't need the Pecs anymore. So this is a routine-based one, and they use a lot of these with schedules. In preschool, my son had a picture schedule, and this is an accommodation that you can ask for within the IEP. And in the preschool, they had it on like a movable board, and it was his visual schedule of exactly what they were going to do in preschool that day. And it was amazing. He knew where he could go to find out what was coming next. This is at home. We are working on our bedtime routine and him dressing himself, brushing his own teeth, and putting himself to bed. So because my son is really into positive reinforcements, we have the smiley stars or the sad faces. Smiley faces or sad faces. So once he completes the task, he either gets a smiley face or a sad face. And it's really been a reinforcer for us. He goes into ABA the next day and tells his therapist whether he got a smiley face or a frowny face. And on the other side of this, and ABA made this one for us, and a lot of the different therapists that we've worked with will make you a Pecs board like this. So this is his morning routine, because we've been struggling some days with not wanting to go to school. So we just run through this. And again, smiley face or sad face when he completes it. The other Pecs that we've used a variety of different formats over the years. This is his latest one, because my son is really a vocal stimmer. And so he can get quite loud with his volume, and it's his way of stimming. So we use this voice-o-meter, and on the back there are stars, and when he's having a quiet voice, we give him a star. But this shows where he needs to be on the meter, so we can tell you are being too loud. We need to move our voice to the quiet voice. And then when he moves his voice to the quiet voice, we move him down, and there he has a star. And that's more of that positive reinforcement. So I just wanted to share those with you. Also, social stories. And I'll share here with you another example that this is an example of a social story on our iPad. You can just use Microsoft Word, Pages, Google Docs, whatever, and grab some photos off the internet, or take pictures from your phone and insert them into a story, and you're just adding a little context down at the bottom. This says, I have fun at school playing with friends and learning from my teachers. And it's a picture of, this is a previous classroom, so that he knows that this is what he's going to do. And the social story goes through his full day. We have a picture of his teacher before this, that he's going to go see his teacher, and he's going to play with his friends. And then it talks about when he's going to leave. So the social stories that we learned from the speech therapist are really helpful for big changes, we found. We were moving, and so we put pictures of our new house in and a social story, and said, this is what your bedroom is going to look like, this is what your bathroom is going to look like, this is where we'll play, all of those types of things into a social story. So that way, when the day came and we couldn't bring him to the house ahead of time, it wasn't so startling. It helped with the transition. The other thing I wanted to say about speech therapists is really, I feel like they're a coach for both you and your child, because they coached us in how to help engage our son to be able to speak and have more organic language, more conversation. Right now we've been working big time on conversations. When we pick our kiddo up, like everyone else, we want to say, hey, how was your day? And we'll get a one-word answer, good, or no thank you, because he doesn't want to talk about it. And that's how he tells us, I don't want to talk about it. I've had a really busy day and I've been working hard, and I do not feel like telling you about my day, Mom. And again, for those of you maybe that don't know our story, my son is 7. So he was nonverbal until about 4.5 to 5. And gaining speech is slow. It's a slow process, but we have been working on this. He started speech when he was 3, and he's been in speech at least once a week. Oftentimes it's twice a week this entire time. So we're making lots of progress, but it is slow going. And I am so amazed by the progress, and I am not run across a bad speech therapist. We love all of our speech therapists that we've worked with, and not only, like I am saying, not only do they give my son skills, they give us the skills and the tools to work at home and keep growing and expanding on what they're teaching during their time with him. So I hope this was helpful, what I thought about speech therapy versus the reality. Very different, very, very different. But again, I'd love to hear about your experience down in the comments. Leave me a comment below and tell me about your speech therapist and your child's journey. What have you found to be helpful? I know, like I said, I share the you can say statement to a lot of the parents that I work with, encouraging them to interact with their children and help them with their speech. It's a very simple one to start using, and we believe that it's helped our daughter to speak sooner because we did a lot of that. In the other, another bonus tip for you. Another thing that was from the very beginning recommended to us was to talk a lot and explain what you're doing throughout your day. So before, when my son started off in preschool, you know, it was only 3 days a week for 2-3 hours a day, and then he was home with me. So they encouraged me to talk to him about what I was doing. Oh, look, mom is sweeping the floor, or mom is going to run the vacuum, and just really narrating what you're doing throughout your day, encouraging that speech and teaching him how to use speech and stuff. That was very helpful as well, and more so than just with speech. We're teaching him life skills with that, you know, because what I'm doing around the house all day is life skills, and it would engage him with me to get involved. So again, I hope that bonus tip helps you. Thank you for joining me. This is going to be a series, and today we're just talking about speech therapy. We're going to talk about occupational therapy, physical therapy, ABA therapy, play-based therapy, and anything else you would like to learn about. Leave it in the comments below if there's some sort of therapy that you're curious about. Horse riding, that therapy was eye-opening for me as well. Maybe we'll do a video about that. Let me know below in the comments if you're interested. All right, thank you so much for joining me today. And I, again, would love to have you subscribe, hit the button below, and be sure to ring the bell so you get notified when new videos drop. Have a great day.